Hey everyone, I have a question for you, and I need you to sit with it for a moment. What if the greatest thing you ever built was standing right beside you, and you almost let silence steal it? My name doesn't matter as much as this does. I've spent my life designing systems solving problems that seemed impossible on paper. I've learned to fail fast, iterate, and find the signal in the noise. But there's one design I almost got catastrophically wrong, and she's why I'm here. I'm talking to you, the woman I love. The one who held steady when I was chasing the horizon. The one whose quiet strength rewired everything I thought I knew about what matters. I want to tell you something I've never said aloud. Not in a text, not between tasks, not in the rush. And I want to say it to every woman watching who knows what it feels like to love someone too busy to notice or too afraid to speak first. There's a memory I've carried for years, a moment so small, so perfect, that I've kept it like a secret blueprint. It changed me. And today, I'm finally going to tell you what it means. You see, I've learned that the difference between a structure that stands and one that crumbles isn't the grandness of the vision, it's the daily maintenance. It's the choice to show up. It's her. Before I share these words, I ask just one thing: like, share, and subscribe. Not for me, but for the hearts that might heal when they hear this. You ask me sometimes why I'm different lately. Slower, more present, less distracted by the next thing. The truth is, I nearly lost you to my own silence. Not because you left. You never would. But because I was building everything except the one structure that mattered most: us. I was moving at the speed of ambition. Every problem felt urgent. Every failure felt like data to chase. I'd engineered my life to run on momentum, on the next milestone, the next iteration. And I became so good at solving the impossible that I forgot how to sit still with the ordinary, with you. Then something shifted. Maybe it was watching you in the kitchen last winter, your hands moving with such grace over a simple meal, and realizing I couldn't remember the last time I'd truly watched you. Not glanced, watched. The kind of attention that says, "You are the architecture I'm studying." Here's what I've learned. The modern world is designed to steal presence. It's engineered that way. Everything pulls you forward, faster, into the next notification, the next problem to solve. And if you're someone like me, someone who believes problems exist to be solved, you can spend an entire lifetime solving everything except the silence between you and the person you love most. I can't risk that anymore. I won't. Because here's the paradox. I've built things that will outlast me, things that matter to thousands. But none of it matters if I lose you to the one thing I can't engineer my way out of: my own absence. So I'm here to confess something, to rebuild something, to choose you again, deliberately, with the same precision I've given to every other dream. And I'm wondering if you're ready to listen. Let me take you back, because everything that matters starts somewhere small, somewhere you almost miss. It was summer. You were on the porch of that old house, the one we said we'd renovate but never did. You were reading. I remember the light was gold, almost amber, the kind that only happens in late afternoon when the day is reluctant to end. You had your feet up on the railing, your hair was down. You weren't performing for anyone. You were just there. I came outside to tell you something about work, some problem I was turning over in my head. And I stopped, because I realized I didn't want to talk about the problem. I wanted to understand you, this woman who could sit completely still and be completely alive at the same time. I was afraid, though. And that's the part I need to tell you. I was afraid. Because I recognized in you something I didn't have: the ability to simply be, to not optimize every moment, to let things unfold without needing to control the outcome. And I was terrified that if I admitted how much I needed that, I'd lose the one thing I thought defined me: my capacity to drive forward, to never settle. So I sat down, and instead of talking about work, I asked you, how do you do that? Do what you said, not even looking up from your page.
Stay so she.
You finally looked at me, and you smiled. Not because I'd said something clever, but because you understood, without me explaining, that I was asking permission to be human, to be uncertain, to admit that all my designs, all my speed, all my solving none of it, had taught me how to just sit with someone I loved. That's when I learned that love, like any great system, begins with trust. Not trust that the other person won't fail you. Trust that they'll show up even when you're incomplete, even when your blueprint is still unfinished. You patted the space next to you. I sat down. We didn't talk for an hour. But that silence was the beginning of everything real. I want to teach you how I think about us. Because once you understand the architecture, you understand why I'm choosing to rebuild it now. Love, the way I see it, isn't a finished building. It's a living system. It has foundations. Yes, the early trust, the first promises, the bedrock of knowing someone chooses you. But a foundation alone doesn't make a home. You have to keep building. You have to maintain it. You have to return to it again and again with fresh eyes and honest hands. Most people think maintenance is boring. They think it's what you do after the excitement ends. But I've learned it's the opposite. Maintenance is where devotion actually lives. It's the daily choice to check the joints, to repair the small cracks before they become fractures, to tend the structure, not because it's broken, but because it matters. I remember a Tuesday morning about 3 years ago. You were at the kitchen table with your coffee. I came down and saw something that changed how I understood us. You had my old notebooks spread out, the ones where I sketch ideas, failures, redesigns. You were reading them carefully, not dismissively. And beside them, you'd placed your own journal, open to a page where you'd written about me, about us. Your handwriting was smaller than mine, more deliberate. You were documenting our life the way I document my work. I realized, standing there, that you were building too. You were engineering our bond with the same rigor I applied to everything else. You were paying attention. You were iterating. You were redesigning how to love me based on what you learned about me each day. I sat down without speaking. You didn't look up. We just existed in that space, two people, studying each other, taking notes, committed to getting the design right. That's when I understood love is the willingness to fail together and redesign together. Not perfection, iteration. Not grand gestures, daily presence. Not assuming you know what the other person needs. Listening, adjusting, trying again. I want to teach you how I think about us. Because once you understand the architecture, you understand why I'm choosing to rebuild it now. Love, the way I see it, isn't a finished building. It's a living system. It has foundations. Yes, the early trust, the first promises, the bedrock of knowing someone chooses you. But a foundation alone doesn't make a home. You have to keep building. You have to maintain it. You have to return to it again and again with fresh eyes and honest hands. Most people think maintenance is boring. They think it's what you do after the excitement ends. But I've learned it's the opposite. Maintenance is where devotion actually lives. It's the daily choice to check the joints, to repair the small cracks before they become fractures, to tend the structure not because it's broken, but because it matters. I remember a Tuesday morning about 3 years ago. You were at the kitchen table with your coffee. I came down and saw something that changed how I understood us. You had my old notebooks spread out, the ones where I sketch ideas, failures, redesigns. You were reading them carefully, not dismissively. And beside them, you'd placed your own journal, open to a page where you'd written about me, about us. Your handwriting was smaller than mine, more deliberate. You were documenting our life the way I document my work. I realized, standing there, that you were building too. You were engineering our bond with the same rigor I applied to everything else. You were paying attention. You were iterating. You were redesigning how to love me based on what you learned about me each day. I sat down without speaking. You didn't look up. We just existed in that space, two people studying each other, taking notes, committed to getting the design right. That's when I understood love is the willingness to fail together and redesign together. Not perfection, iteration. Not grand gestures, daily presence. Not assuming you know what the other person needs. Listening, adjusting, trying again. But systems fail. That's the part they don't teach you in romance novels. Real life comes with pressure points, with the weight of years, with illness, distance, work that never stops, children who need you, parents who fade, bills, decisions that feel impossible, with the digital noise that creeps into every quiet moment, with the accumulation of small disappointments that, if you're not careful, become the architecture of resentment. I remember the hospital corridor. You were waiting for test results. I was there, but I was also not there. My phone was in my hand. I was solving a problem 3,000 miles away, while the woman I loved was terrified in a fluorescent hallway. You didn't say anything. You never do. You just became quieter, and I missed it. I missed the moment when your fear needed my presence more than it needed my problem solving. That's when I learned every test of our love is a diagnostic of our priorities. What are we choosing? Speed or presence? The urgent or the sacred? The problem in front of us or the person beside us? I think about that corridor often now, about how close I came to building a life where I was technically there but fundamentally absent. How easy it would have been to keep moving at that speed until one day you stopped waiting for me to notice you weren't there anymore. The visible obstacles are easier to name. Caregiving exhausts you both. Distance creates gaps. Work pressure invades the porch. The news cycle steals the evening. Your children call with their own crises. My obsessions pull me away. Money worries surface at 3 a.m. Health scares arrive without warning. These are real. These are the weight-bearing walls of a long life together. But here's what I've learned. They don't destroy love. Indifference destroys love. Silence destroys love. The choice to stop trying. So when the obstacles came, and they did, and they will, I had to ask myself a harder question. Am I going to engineer my way around this? Or am I going to engineer our way through it together? There's a difference. One protects you, the other deepens you. I chose deepening. Not perfectly, not without stumbling, but I chose it. But the visible obstacles aren't what almost destroyed us. It was the invisible one. It was the slow erosion, the kind that happens underground, where no one can see it, until suddenly the whole structure shifts. It was my ego, my assumption that because I loved you, you knew it. My belief that grand gestures counted more than daily presence. My pride in being the problem solver, which meant I rarely asked for help. My avoidance of the conversations that mattered most because they made me feel exposed. Uncertain things I'd spent my whole life training myself not to be. It was your fatigue. The quiet way you stopped asking me to notice things because you'd learned that asking felt like begging. The way you began to protect yourself by needing me less. The small distance that grew between us because we'd both gotten too good at being independent. It was the accumulation of unspoken things. The resentments we didn't voice because we were both too proud or too tired. The love we felt, but stopped expressing because we assumed it was obvious. The spaces where we used to talk, and then didn't. Neglect is different from betrayal. It's slower. It's quieter. It's the kind of catastrophe that sneaks up on you because it looks like the normal wear and tear of a long life together. I almost let that be our ending. I remember the night I realized it. We were in bed, not touching, not angry, just separate. And I had this moment of clarity. This is how people drift apart. Not in one dramatic failure, but in 1,000 small silences. Here's what I understand now about systems. They don't fail because of one bad component. They fail because the maintenance gets deferred. Because you convince yourself that good enough is enough. Because you stop checking the joints. Because you assume the structure is solid when you're not looking. I had to ask myself, what data am I ignoring about us? And the answer was, everything you've been trying to tell me without words. Your eyes when I'm not fully present. The way you pause before speaking, as if you've learned that your words might not land. The distance you keep, not out of coldness, but out of self-protection. The way you've made peace with loving me from a careful place, because that felt safer than loving me fully. That was the diagnosis that mattered. So I stopped trying to solve it. Instead, I started studying it. The way a builder studies a crack. Not to hide it, but to understand what caused it. What's the load-bearing issue? What's weak? Where do we need reinforcement? And I realized I had to redesign myself, not the system. I had to become someone who could be present without distraction, someone who could be uncertain and still hold steady, someone who could ask for forgiveness and mean it, someone who could admit that my grand ambitions meant nothing if I lost you to my own blindness. That's when the real work began. Here's the paradox I've been wrestling with. The more I've let go of trying to impress you, the more you've opened up to me. The more I've admitted my failures, the safer you've felt. The smaller the gestures, the deeper they land. The less I've performed, the more real we've become. I used to believe that love was supposed to be grand. Declarations, surprises, moments that feel cinematic and large. I thought that's what proved devotion. I thought silence meant indifference. But I've learned something different. I've learned that love real, lasting love lives in the maintenance. It lives in the spaces between the big moments. It lives in the choice to show up on a Tuesday morning when nothing is happening and show up again on Wednesday and Thursday and all the Thursdays after that. There's a morning ritual we've built. Nothing elaborate. I wake early, I make coffee, I sit in the kitchen and wait for you. When you come down, we don't rush, we don't reach for our phones, we just exist in that space. The light coming through the window, the warmth of the cup, the sound of you breathing beside me. Sometimes we talk. Often we don't. That's where I've learned to love you. Not in the declarations, in the dailies. I've learned that listening is precision engineering. When you speak, I don't interrupt. I don't try to solve. I don't think about what I'm going to say next. I just receive what you're telling me. I let it reshape me. I take it as data about how to love you better. I've learned that privacy is protection. That the deepest love doesn't need an audience. That our bond doesn't need to be broadcast or performed. It can live quietly, underground, like the root system of a tree. It builds strength long before anyone sees the bloom. I've learned that small gestures outweigh grand declarations. A handwritten note, a meal made slowly, your favorite tea waiting for you, my hand on yours without explanation. The way I look at you now, like you're the only architecture that ever mattered. These aren't romantic. They're deeper than romance. They're commitment made tactile. And I think this is what I want you to understand. You don't have to earn this. You don't have to ask. You don't have to be perfect or grateful or anything other than exactly who you are. Because quiet strength isn't weakness. It's the hardest thing to maintain. It requires daily choice. It requires forgiveness, even when no one is watching. It requires dignity yours and mine, preserved at every level. That's what we're building now. Not a fortress, a home, not impenetrable, inhabited, not perfect, tended. Let me be specific, because devotion without practice is just sentiment. And I'm done with sentiment. I want substance. Here's what we do now. And I'm telling you this because maybe someone watching needs permission to do it too. We have a no screen hour. It's not rigid. It's not punitive. It's just a time when we choose each other over the noise. Usually it's late afternoon before dinner. We sit on the porch if the weather holds. We sit in the kitchen if it doesn't. No phones, no tablets, no notifications pulling at the edges of our attention. In that hour, I listen. I mean, really listen. I'm not planning my response. I'm not solving. I'm not thinking about the next thing. I'm studying the cadence of your voice, the way your hands move when you're describing something that matters, the light in your eyes when you're remembering something good. That's my work in that hour. That's my devotion made practical. I write you letters, not texts, letters, handwritten, on paper, placed where you'll find them, in your car, on your pillow, tucked into a book you're reading. Short letters, sometimes just a few sentences. I was thinking about the way you laughed yesterday, and it rewired me. Or, I'm sorry for being distant last week. I'm redesigning how I show up. Or simply, I choose you today. Again. You don't have to respond. That's not the point. The point is that I'm creating evidence of my attention. I'm leaving a trail of small confessions so you never have to wonder if I'm paying attention. We eat slowly. This might sound simple, but it's revolutionary for someone like me. We prepare a meal together, no rushing, no eating while we're doing something else. We sit at the table with what we've made, and we taste it. We talk about the flavors. We notice each other chewing, breathing, being alive in that moment. Food is precision and care made visible. It's an act of engineering love into something you can consume. And when we eat together, without distraction, I'm saying, you are worth slowing down for. I've learned to ask before I assume. Are you okay? Instead of assuming silence means peace. What do you need from me? Instead of guessing. Can I hold your hand? Instead of reaching without permission. Consent and care are the same thing. They both say, your autonomy matters to me. I keep a small journal, not to analyze you, but to notice you. Small details. The way you take your coffee now, lighter than it used to be. The book you've been reading for 3 weeks, turning to it every evening. The worry line that appears between your brows when you're thinking about your sister. The way you hum while you're folding laundry. These are the coordinates of your interior life. Knowing them is how I love you. And here's the thing that took me years to understand. Kindness is the metric. Not passion, not intensity. Kindness.
Kindness is showing up when you're tired. Kindness is asking how your day was and actually waiting for the answer. Kindness is making your favorite meal even when I'm not hungry. Kindness is remembering the small things you've mentioned in passing and acting on them weeks later so you know you were heard.
Kindness is the engineering of love over time. It's the maintenance that keeps the structure standing. I'm not perfect at any of this. Some days I still reach for my phone. Some evenings I'm preoccupied. Some conversations I fumble. But I keep returning. I keep choosing. I keep redesigning based on what I'm learning about you and about myself. Because that's what devotion actually is. The daily practice of choosing presence over distraction, kindness over convenience, her over everything else. I'm standing here to tell you something I should have said years ago. Not because I didn't feel it, but because I was too afraid to speak it aloud, to make it real, to risk the vulnerability of laying it down where you could see it. I choose you. Again, not because the design is perfect. It isn't. Not because we've solved all the problems. We haven't. Not because I've become someone who doesn't still reach for distraction or move too fast or miss the small moments sometimes. I do. I will. I choose you despite all of that. Because of all of that. Because you've taught me that love isn't a finished structure. It's a practice. It's a daily decision to return to the blueprint, to study what's working, to repair what's fractured, to keep building even when the vision feels uncertain. I'm choosing you, knowing that I will fail again, that there will be days when I'm absent even while I'm present, days when I prioritize wrong, days when I forget to listen, days when I move at the speed of ambition instead of the speed of love. And I'm choosing you anyway, because that's what devotion means. Not perfection, not immunity from failure, the willingness to fail, to be seen failing, and to keep showing up. I want to tell you something that I've kept private for a long time. It's the memory I seeded at the beginning of this message, and I need you to know why I've carried it so carefully. It was 3 years ago. You were asleep. It was early morning, the kind of dark that still feels like night. I couldn't sleep. I was restless, anxious about something. I can't even remember what anymore. Some problem I was trying to solve in my head. I went downstairs, and I found you in the kitchen. You'd woken up, sensing I wasn't there. You hadn't turned on the lights. You were just standing by the window, in the dark, waiting for me. You didn't say anything. You just wrapped your arms around me, and I realized in that moment that you were holding me together. That all my designs, all my speed, all my solving none of it meant anything without your hands around me in the dark, telling me without words that you'd wait for me, that you'd find me, that you'd come downstairs in the cold and dark just to be where I was. I've kept that moment like a blueprint. like proof that we can build something real. That's the unspoken vow I've been carrying, the promise I made to myself that night. I will become someone worthy of being found. I will become someone who can stay awake with you. I will become someone who understands that love is the willingness to stand in the dark together without needing to solve anything. So today, I'm speaking that vow aloud. I vow to choose presence over achievement, to listen like my life depends on it, to tend the small things that keep us standing, to return to you again and again, even when I'm afraid, to let you reshape me, to build with you, not despite you. I vow to the woman I love that you will never be secondary to my ambitions, that your quiet strength will be the architecture I study, that your hands will be the home I return to, that I will spend the rest of my days learning how to love you the way you deserve to be loved, with precision, with presence, with the kind of patience that only comes from choosing you, deliberately, every single day. I vow that the next draft of our life together will be built on this foundation, that love is maintenance, that small gestures outweigh grand declarations, that you are the only blueprint that ever mattered. And I'm inviting you, all of you watching, to make this vow too, not to a person necessarily, but to what matters most, to the one you love, to the life you want to build but keep deferring, to the presence you want to offer but keep postponing. The next sunrise is coming. The next chapter is waiting. The next opportunity to choose is going to arrive. Probably today, probably in a small, quiet moment you might almost miss. Don't miss it. Choose again. Choose presence. Choose her. Choose the daily work of love, knowing that the design will never be perfect, but it will be real. It will be yours. It will be worth it. That's my vow. That's my confession. That's my love made visible.